So Peter Bischoff-Everding is, as I said before, is a senior expert in the medical device unit in the European Commission's Directorate-General Health and Food Safety. He's in charge of legal aspects related to the implementation of the UA regulatory framework for medical devices and in vitro diagnostics. And before that, he was working in the fields of the European consumer law, consumer product safety, and a free movement of goods. Peter is a lawyer by training and holds a PhD from Hamburg Law School in competition law. So we're very proud of have you in this rare diseases field and this medical devices regulation and orphan devices presentations. So talk about this, and we're expecting yes, a discussion after Begoña Nafria, no, indeed, to resume and recap this part of this Pediatric Innovation Day. So whenever you want, the stage is yours, from Brussels to Barcelona. Our warm applause, just to know that we are here, yes. Peter,
thank you very much, and good
check,
afternoon.
We are here waiting for you.
Brussels,
thank you very much.
Cold Brussels. We had the first snow of this winter. There's a small layer of snow still on the roofs. But I'm very happy to be online with you. Can't be there physically. I would like to say a few words only about with the regulatory framework. You heard, I'm a lawyer by training, and we've been working for quite some time on the regulations that frame basically the placing on the market of medical devices in vitro diagnostics in the different member states in Europe. And today, specifically, I would like to talk a little bit about orphan devices and also the specific situation that orphan devices are under the medical device regulations. Just as a background, well, so the two regulations, one specifically for the medical devices and the other one for in vitro diagnostics. And both of them were adopted by the European Parliament, by the Council in 2017. But they are applicable only since 21 regarding the medical devices, and since May 22 for the in vitro diagnostics. And there are many aspects what the or basically the regulations, they regulate the whole, basically the life cycle of a medical device, from clinical investigations to the clinical evaluation of the product by the manufacturer, the conformity assessment, the requirements for placing the product on the market, the vigilance process, so when incidents occur, that they have to be reported, the analysis of those incidents report, market surveillance by competent authorities. So really, the recertification after 5 years of the product, so the whole life cycle. And the regulations, compared to the previous rules that were enforced, have sufficiently or significantly tightened or reinforced, among others, the requirements for clinical evidence. What manufacturers need to use, the clinical data the manufacturers need to use in order to demonstrate that their products, the devices are safe and they perform as the manufacturer indicate. That was for good reasons. There were a number of quite severe health issues with or safety issues with, in particular, some implantable devices, which actually then triggered the reform of the legislative framework, and the result are the two regulations. However, the implementation from 21 onwards, or even before, was accompanied by quite a number of challenges of different nature. There was kind of a bottleneck of the conformity assessment bodies, because contrary to pharmaceuticals, medical devices are not centrally assessed and authorized by an authority, but it's a decentralized system of so-called conformity assessment or notified bodies that are often for-profit bodies that are designated by a national competent authority and then also supervised, but they operate as a business operator when assessing devices and issuing certificates. And these certificates are necessary for the manufacturer that they can place a product on the market. All the new requirements have led to higher costs, to longer timelines for bringing products to the market, and overall the framework is considered relatively complex. And especially then for products, for medical devices intended for small patient populations, what we call the orphan devices. These are particularly severe challenges. Obtaining clinical data in order to demonstrate safety and performance of the device is very difficult, very onerous to obtain if there's only a small number of patients and only a small number of devices that are brought to the market. There's no legal definition in the regulations, and there's no specific pathway to bring these orphan devices to the market. Contrary to, again, the pharmaceuticals regulations, where we speak about orphan drugs, and there's a specific pathway, specific incentives for orphan drugs to be produced and to be brought to the market. This problem was acknowledged by the Medical Device Coordination Group, which is kind of the governing body under the regulations for medical devices. It is composed of representatives from all the 27 member states, from the competent authorities of those member states. And already 22, it was acknowledged that some specific guidance assistance need to be found to support manufacturers of orphan devices. And the task force was established with authorities, but also with many stakeholders, especially healthcare professionals were in there, academia, notified bodies, industry were representative. And what then in this June this year we came up with was a guidance document, which for the first time in Europe established criteria for orphan devices. So, and these criteria, there's a quantitative criterion based on epidemiology. So it says that it concerns products or devices which are intended to treat or diagnose a disease or a medical condition that is present in not more than 12,000 persons per year. So incidence, yearly incidence rate of 12,000. And there are qualitative criteria, which essentially say that there's an unmet medical need, that there are no alternatives or insufficient alternatives to treat or diagnose that disease or medical condition, or that the device will bring a substantial clinical benefit compared to what currently exists or what is the current state of the art. And what is interesting also, the guidance also applies to the devices for orphan subpopulations, so where the disease or the medical condition affects more than 12,000 persons a year. But it's specifically intended for a smaller group, a subset, a subpopulation of those patients that is lower than 12,000. Or also devices that are intended to be used for a larger population, for the adult population, for example, but has also an orphan indication that may also be used for example, for children. That's very relevant for the extrapolation of data that comes from the adult population. So beside the criteria that have been set out in this guidance, it provides a number of consideration and recommendations as to the clinical evaluation to be carried out for those devices. It gives some guidance on how to generate pre-market clinical data for orphan devices intended for these small patient populations. It has specific considerations how to design, conduct clinical investigations if the patient population is so small. It emphasizes the role of non-clinical data, so where clinical data cannot be sufficiently generated, that there can be recourse to non-clinical data. And very important, it acknowledges that there may be certain limitations in the pre-market clinical data, and that those limitations may be acceptable. The kind of gaps, lacuna in the pre-market clinical data that then may be filled out in the post-market phase. So therefore, the importance of post-market surveillance or post-market clinical follow-up to be carried out by the manufacturer. And what I already said, the use of extrapolation of clinical data that exists for non-orphan population, for example, for adult patient, that this may then be extrapolated to the indication for the orphan, for example, for the children population. Besides those more substantial considerations, there's also some procedural considerations. The conformity assessment, the notified bodies, so these entities that third-party entities that carry out the assessment of the manufacturer's technical documentation in order to prove or demonstrate that the product is safe and in conformity with the applicable requirements. They need to engage very early with the manufacturers in order to decide, to determine, is this product an orphan device, and may eventually then, when they have to issue a certificate, issue the certificate with conditions, for especially when there are acceptable gaps in the pre-market clinical data, that it does not hinder the issuing of a certificate, but the manufacturer is then obliged to collect additional data in the post-market phase from the real-world use of the device within a certain period of time. And in order to support here the notified bodies, the expert panels that are established with the European Medicines Agency, but they are expert panels specifically for medical devices. They are there to provide scientific advice and scientific support to manufacturers, but also to notified bodies. First of all, in order to help to determine, is it an orphan device, yes or no? And secondly, also to determine the expectations as regards
Hello, Peter. I think we could, yes, recover this connection with Peter. So interesting, this guidance, no? Putting light on the shadow with these scenarios, talking about all new programs involved and related to change the scenarios, the context, with this no regulation, no specific legal definition, but we are optimistic that we can recover this connection with Peter in order to finish his presentation. Yes? Some minutes, in a while, I think it's going to be possible. Meanwhile, talking about the rest of this Pediatric Innovation Day, we have our 4 speakers waiting for their time to explain about the projects. So, yes? Yeah, why not? Yes, perfect. So we could continue with Begoña Nafria, because he is attending this Paediatric Innovation Day here live with this expertise. So we could please invite to the stage Begoña Nafria, Head of Patient Engagement in Research Department about Rare Diseases. Begoña has a long experience in the field of the involving patients and families in research initiatives. Her areas of expertise are focused on pediatric patients' involvement in research and specifically in the field of clinical trials. She is currently a PhD studying in the patient involvement in pediatrics field, specifically in the children's rights in regards to the access to the cross-border clinical trials in Europe. And Begoña, as a coordinator of EPIC NET, coordinating of Kids Barcelona, co-chair of the Children's Medicines Working Party of AFPGCP, chair of the working group of cross-border access to the clinical trials at MPREMA. Thank you very much for being. Thank you very much for matching this moment. So big applause for Begoña Nafria attending and changing the time to present. Thank you very much, Begoña. So the stage is yours.
Everybody, it's my pleasure to be today with all of you. If we can share the presentation. Everything is to keep your attention, by the way. First of all, I want to thank you, my colleagues from i4Kids for the invitation to be this afternoon with all of you. 1 second. Perfect. The title of my presentation is about the involvement of patients, specifically in a field in which we don't have too much expertise. I need to be fair about this, that it's the field of the orphan medical devices. I'm not going to try to explain probably very nice stories, but I'm going to try to convince you about the importance to involve the patients, even if we have a very small number of patients living with these orphan conditions, because also they deserve to have a voice in the development of the clinical studies to design and analyze the benefit of these technologies. First of all, I want to comment that I was a little worried and concerned when I was invited to give this talk today with all of you for the reason, because we don't have, good examples, but I think that it's important to build on top of the expertise that already we have. And you will see some tips and lessons learned today, and this is my mission, try to convince you that we can work with the patients, even if they are children, and even if they have these very rare or ultra-rare conditions. One of the most important tips or messages is that the children are not little adults. We cannot take decisions on behalf of them, because probably our perspective, our opinions, our beliefs will be different. And for the reason, any time that we can involve in science, in health research, the patients, let's do it. Second, if you listen, the children, probably you will hear their opinion, because something that is important that you know from the children is that they don't lie. And this is wow, today I don't know what is going on here. But this is important that you realize about this. They explain the things as they feel, as they see. And this is important because probably, as I said, the perspective that we can have as an adult and not living with the disease that these child they have would be probably very, very different. I'm going to show you 2 examples about what innovation provides to the patients. These examples are not fully based, let's say, in the perspective of the patients and the families, but show a little bit how we can change science and how we can change the way that we are treating our patients. And I want to thank you, my colleague and friend Quique Bassat, because he gave me these examples. The first one is about the children that we need to perform a lumbar puncture when they are babies. It's a very invasive medical procedure, and as you can imagine, in this case, the parents, they are not really happy to go through this procedure with their children. And afterwards, I know that another colleague from East Global is going to explain that at that moment, what we are doing is the analysis to study this device in order to avoid this very complex and invasive medical procedure. Another example, and this is based in the common sense, and in a specific context, and a specific country, and a specific culture, because diversity also is important. This is an example about the acceptability, or in this case, non-acceptability, in the general pediatrician revision of the kids in one African country about the method that was used to measure the size of the kids. The parents didn't accept this specific procedure because in their mind they had the photo, the picture of a coffin, because it was like a box created with wood and the baby inside. And based on this non-acceptability of this very simple process to measure the babies, at the end what we have is a different device that it's more accepted, in this case by the parents, to go through these specific regular follow-ups of the children. Easy examples, but if we listen the patients, if we listen the diversity that there are in these groups of patients, probably we can do better our work. Innovation, and this is the perspective and the challenge that I have this afternoon to convince you, starts and ends close and in partnership with the patients. And probably you have heard a lot about the concept of patient centricity, and here you have the patients and the families and of course the clinicians in the middle. But we need not only to believe on this, we need to practice. And sometimes it's where the challenge it is, because clinicians, they have the scientific knowledge, the experts in regulatory, they have the expertise in regulatory science, etc. But sometimes what is missed is the expertise in people working with the methods to involve children and parents. Another simple example about the importance to listen the patients. This example, as you can see, doesn't came from the health setting, but probably from the unhealthy setting. But it's a very nice example to explain what the brands, the big brands, they do, and they have doing for many, many years, that it's listening the customers. And you have here 4 different examples about taste of soft drinks that probably in Spain, if you go to the supermarket, you don't find these specific products, but if you go to a specific countries, you will find, because this company did market research, listen to customers, and decided that probably in some countries it's accepted and the people will pay for a drink with a taste, for example, or garlic or bacon. This is the real world. And this is what we need to do in the field of health. Listen the preferences, the needs of the patients and the parents. Probably it's not the best example, as I said, but it's very nice to explain the value to listen the patients and the diversity. Second point that I want to comment, the European Medical Devices Regulation. I think that here we have an opportunity, because you know now that we need to go through clinical studies with the medical devices that before this regulation was not mandatory. And there is where we have the opportunity to include in the plan of these clinical studies the contribution of the patients and the families. And you will see afterwards how we do this in Sant Joan de Déu. We have a scientific method, and in parallel also with a scientific method, we can incorporate the perspective of the patients. Third point, there is a secret recipe? Probably. But it's not a unique recipe, because we need to work based in the project, based in the disease, based in the age of the patients, in the country of the patients. There are many variables. There is no manual or a formula to copy-paste. Our magic recipe is the bespoke plan. It means that we create a tailored plan for each project to incorporate the perspective of the patients and the parents. It's based in science, because we discuss if it's important to do focus groups, interviews, simulation. You will see afterwards some of the methods that we use. And let's say it's a new science, because not everybody is incorporating this qualitative, let's say, research perspective when we work in scientific science and projects. When incorporate the perspective of the patients and the parents, for me, 2 keywords or hashtags, you have hashtags today in the slides, needs to be continuous from the beginning to the end. From the beginning, it's where it's more important, because it's the moment in which decide the design of our clinical study. And at the end, because we need to communicate the outcomes of this study to the patients first and to the society second. And we need to do it in a format and in a language that they can understand. And it's a partnership. If you build these groups of patients and families, you train them, they are ready to be incorporated along the project. And this is a snapshot about the process to perform a clinical study. It's a very classical slide, but it's only to comment that the voice of the patients and families, as I said, can be through the whole process. And something that is important is that if we have these groups of patients in partnership working with the people that are doing the science, anytime that they need them, they are there. Because in some projects it can be a challenge, the recruitment. In some projects we need sometimes to do adjustments in terms of the design, etc. And they need to be working hand by hand with the scientific community. Methodology, how we do this patient involvement in medical devices and in general in any scientific project, based basically in qualitative and in some cases also with mixed methods with quantitative methodologies. As I said, in every project we do an analysis about where the patients and the parents provide a value, and we decide which is the best method. You will see here in red color simulation, because the other methods that you have here basically are based in the opinion, preference, and the experience that the patients they have before to be involved. But with simulation, what we can do is to test in a specific environment, like in the real study, some specific pain points of the project. And it's the best probably context or environment to do this analysis about the perspective and the opinions and preferences of the patients and the parents. There are different ways to incorporate the voice and the perspective of the patients. With the patients in first person, but of course they need to have the right maturity level, the right age. Usually when everything is aligned, we involve from 12 years and onwards, not younger, because sometimes it's hard for them to understand the discussions, the projects, etc. Anytime we have the parents, because they are experts also in the disease of their kids. And we have also scientific youth councils with the name YPACs, Young Persons Advisory Groups, that at that moment are established in different European hospitals that we are in the network that already the introducer of my bio explained that we have at the European level working together. This is one photo of our Scientific Youth Council at Sant Joan de Déu of Barcelona, and the other picture is a snapshot to explain that in any project, even if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 patients, we have always a family, and they are not a number. They are people, and they have the right, and I'm going to insist on this, to make opinions and to contribute to our projects. One comment specifically in regards of the involvement of patients in regulatory activities. In Europe, let's say we are one step back if we compare with the FDA, because the FDA has a guidance to suggest about how to incorporate the perspective of patients, specifically in the field of medical devices. We don't have yet this in the European Medicines Agency, and I think that it's important to be persistent and to ask for the voice of the patients also in the regulatory environment, because they also are taking important decisions. And some comments about the impact of involving patients, and this is based in the analysis of different projects in general, not about specific projects in regards to orphan medical devices. They can help us to make faster the recruitment, because probably these patients will exist in the real world, because in some cases the eligibility criteria of these projects, they don't exist, and we have a problem there. Of course, the enrollment and the completion of the trial. They can also represent, and I have insisted a lot in this word, in the diversity perspective, because where you are born, your socio-demographical background, your education, everything can make probably a different experience in your disease. And we need to incorporate this perspective of diversity when we involve the patients and the parents. Also, it helps to have fewer or less number of protocol amendments, and protocol amendments has an impact in the time and in the cost of the trial, and this is also so important. If we plan on a study and we don't stop this study, we don't have amendments, the study will finish according to the plan, and this, of course, benefit the patients, but in general, the scientific community. It helps also to collect quality data, and of course, something that is really important, incorporate the outcomes, the perspectives that are meaningful for the patients in the design of these studies. Because sometimes, of course, the patients are concerned about the scientific primary endpoint of the study, but probably outcomes in regards of their quality of life are probably in the top of their priorities. And sometimes we forgot the quality of life of the patients. How we do this at Sant Joan de Déu Research Foundation, we have a dedicated department that was set up in 2015 that I have the honor and the privilege to coordinate. For us, in this institution, in our hospital, we really believe in the concept of patient centricity. The ones that you know the hospital, if you only visit our facilities, you will see that it's a pediatric hospital because we have incorporated the perspective of the patients and the families in the design of these facilities. We do the same in our department in regards of scientific projects. And two important approaches about how we involve the patients. The first one is in regards of the ethical principles. We need to do it based in these ethical principles, based in the autonomy and the capacity to be involved and to decide, and also that it's very relevant and important. And yesterday was the World Children's Day. It's based in the rights, because this is not a fashion that it's going to last, few days or few months. This is a right, and we need to work on behalf of the rights of the children and the young people. This is our network. This network was set up in 2017. 4 institutions were the founder members: Sant Joan de Déu with our Youth Council Kids Barcelona, Kids France, that is based in the Hospices Civils de Lyon, and 2 groups based in the UK, one in the Alderey Hospital in Liverpool, and the other is the coordinating team from the Children's Research Network in Scotland. At that moment, we have more than 30 YPACs, 30 youth councils across children's hospitals in Europe. But something that is very important, and it's one of the lessons learned, we have the capability to create ad hoc groups of patients for the projects, because in these scientific councils, in the hospitals, we have children with different conditions, but probably we don't have any with the orphan condition in which we are working for the design of a specific medical device. What we do is create these groups per project and design these tailored projects that I already mentioned. Something that for us is important is the contribution of Fundació Sant Joan de Déu to the coordination of all the patient involvement activities of the Connect for Children. At that moment in Europe, we are lucky because we have a big infrastructure that connects 20 national clinical pediatric networks across Europe. And from Sant Joan de Déu, we offer the capability to any academic or commercial sponsor to incorporate the perspective of patients and families in their studies. Of course, the collaboration with the innovation field, because sometimes it's not only a clinical trial about a treatment, sometimes it's a mix between the device and the medicine, or only the device, but it deserves, children and young persons deserve the same and equal opportunities to be involved in innovation, such as to be involved in projects of medicines. As I said, children should have a voice in health research in Europe. It's not something fashion or new. All the children have rights, and remember, if they cannot participate because of their condition, because probably the age, or because if they have a cognitive impairment, always we have the patients, and we need to work always with this on mind and provide the right means to do it. And something that I think it has been commented today many, many times, but sometimes we don't realize about the impact that the work that all of us we are doing at the European level, or in some cases at worldwide level. If we have better research and better treatments for our kids, our society will be healthier. And I think that we need to realize about the work that we are doing every day. And this is all from my side. Hopefully, I have convinced you about the importance to involve children and parents in science. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much, Begoña and Nafria, for your explanation, brilliant, and the way you work against this resilience in this so difficult field. Thank you very much. Working together with these new researchers reminds us African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go farther, go together. Like the one explanation about Begoña's Nafria. So time we restart the connection with Peter, just to sum up, to conclude his presentation. So please, Peter Bischoff from Brussels, here you are. Thank you very much for attending during these minutes, so interesting ones with Begoña Nafria. Now, looking forward and apologize for these technical issues. Now, time to sum up your presentation about all these new approaches for orphan devices in this European medical devices regulations field. Thank you. Peter.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm back again. I'm sorry for this technical problem. Zoom sometimes plays games we do not like so much, but okay. I'm always at the end, and I just listened to the last part of Begoña, and I think it fits actually very well, because where I ended my presentation before, when I was kicked out, it was about the expert panels on medical devices that are hosted by the European Medicines Agency, where clinicians, academia, researchers in various fields of medical devices are in these expert panels. And they offer, since August this year, free scientific advice on the orphan device. We can't call it really designation, because it's not like in the US by the FDA a designation, but at least advice on the orphan device status and on the clinical evidence expectations for orphan devices, including also to give advice whether from their scientific perspective it is acceptable to accept certain, or it's acceptable to have certain gaps in the pre-market clinical evidence, what kind of post-market follow-up activities can be conducted in order to fill then those gaps. It's true that for the time being, Begoña said that there's no orphan or pediatric device panel, but the EMA colleagues, they select the expert from the relevant panels from neurological, from cardiovascular. It's mostly cardiovascular panel, and then they select that they have relevant experts also in the field of pediatric or orphan devices in then the pool of experts that would give advice. But it's indeed something that also healthcare professionals have already raised, whether it wouldn't be useful to have a specific panel on orphan or pediatric devices to be further discussed. And then on this very last slide, I wanted to briefly also mention that last year, no, actually this year, it's the call for proposals was launched last year, but this year, for the first time under the European budget, more specifically the EU for Health program budget, we have set up a grant program to support non-profit organizations, organizations like academia that provide a platform to develop, to bring together, to network in the field of orphan devices, especially for children. And we could award grants to 3 projects, and one of them is the i4Kids for Rare, coordinated by the Sant Jau de Déu Hospital in Barcelona. So congratulations to that. It was the first time that we launched this grant. We looked, of course, a little bit to what the FDA does in the US. They have also a grant program for pediatric devices to non-profit consortia. And we'll take stock of how this grant program has been received, and when we'll see whether we can continue it. And with this, I want to close. I want to thank you very much for having invited me, for your patience, and to listen to me also to the last part, and to give me the chance to close, to finish my presentation. I wish you a very interesting, fruitful afternoon session, and it's really a great initiative that you have this day organized today in Barcelona. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter Bischoff from Brussels, with all these scenarios related to all these orphan devices and regulatory, all these achievements we have to face and tackle ones. Thank you very much. Time only 1-2 minutes to a question and answer coming from the audience here in the Agora Auditorium in Cosmo Caixa, Barcelona. You want to ask something to Peter? Yes, now properly. View and Begoña and Nafria, the two professional voices talking about these new approaches for orphan devices, this blog dedicated to rare diseases. Yes, please, if you want to ask something. Seems something? If not, yeah, everything works. Everything clear? So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peter. So keep on doing like that with all this research in this legal and normality and regularity orphan devices field. Thank you very much for being part of this chapter in Paediatric Innovation Day here in Barcelona, the 5th editions, and so on. Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you as well, Begoña and Nafria. Nice and brilliant presentation.